scandal in 2005.
Okay, all right. We need to understand this took place during the invasion of Iraq. But
yeah,
we need
this took place after the invasion. During the invasion.
Okay,
yeah.
All right. So, when did you actually? What year did you join the military? The U.S. military.
99.
1999. And from 1999 till 2001, September 2001, what were your rank?
What was my rank?
From 1999, you entered as an enlist, so that made you what?
I was private.
Okay, and then by 2001, what was your rank?
By 2001, I was sergeant.
Okay. You went to Afghanistan before you went to Iraq, correct?
I was in Afghanistan first, yeah.
Okay, and how long was your tour in Afghanistan?
A year and a half. A year altogether was about a year, and it was 15 months altogether.
Okay, and what was your mission in Afghanistan specifically, or your unit?
We had several missions. We did convoy security and route patrol.
Okay, and this is all that you had to do during the daytime every single day, or was this eventually changed over to something else?
Well, so our unit was a military police unit, and the way it works is military police, when a company is sent to combat, one company would go be attached to a battalion. So a battalion would be attached to a brigade, and then the brigade. So if the whole brigade goes as a military police brigade, you have over 40,000 military police. So each unit would have a particular function. One function of the military police unit would be convoy security. The other one is personal security detail. The other one is route security. And then you have resettlement and which is like corrections officer or detainee operations. I would call detainee operations. So you have those four functions, and that what I did was I rotated out of so say for the first 3 months I did, because they did this because they didn't want us to be stuck in one place. I did for the first 3 months I did the route security, and then the next I rotated to detainee operations, and then the next I did personal security detail, and then the next I did
So very well. In other words, you had various assignments for your 15 months that you were there.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, you train as a combat enlistee. In other words, that's what you were. You were a combat infantry. And you went to Afghanistan 2 years after your enlistment, and you had all these various assignments, including security, personal securities, and so forth. But nevertheless, you were involved in some combat in Afghanistan. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I was in combat in Afghanistan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, when you came back after your tour in Afghanistan, was that when you were then deployed to Iraq? And if so, what was the difference in time between you getting back from Afghanistan? You got back in 2003 or 2004? What year did you get back from your tour in Afghanistan? Maybe
2003.
2003, very good. And when you came back to the United States, you stayed for how long exactly before you went on your Iraq tour?
I went the following year.
Very good.
Yeah, after deploy. Well, I had three. Yeah, I went the following year.
Okay. What rank were you at that point?
I was a staff sergeant.
Staff sergeant. Okay. And so you go to Iraq. Are you stationed in Baghdad or Mosul or Basra, or where exactly are you stationed?
I was in Baghdad, and then Baghdad, not Mosul. Baghdad and Abu Ghraib.
Okay. If you don't mind, just elaborate a little bit on the specifics of what presumption were you told that you would be going to Iraq? Because Afghanistan, many people understand, Osama bin Laden was in Afghanistan and he was responsible for the buildings. So, practically so many people are saying, yes, we need boots on the ground. So we're going to put that out there. But for Iraq, what was your unit told specifically was the reason why you all were going to Iraq? Was it to find someone or some things, or what? Or was that ever given to you?
Our mission was to find weapons of mass destruction.
Okay, and when you got there, were you doing anything to help find or locate or discover weapons of mass destruction?
We were in support of, in support of that mission, yes.
And as a staff sergeant, elaborate on what it is that you did in the first 3 months while you were in Iraq.
First 3 months, first 3 months we did training. Okay. And after training, our mission was to provide security for cavalry. So like backup. We were
all right.
Back.
Were you promoted after 3 months, or was that were you up for promotion after 3 months? Because somewhere in Iraq you did get promoted.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
to what rank did you get promoted after staff sergeant?
After staff sergeant, I made a warrant officer.
Okay. And what were your duties and responsibility as a warrant officer?
I was in charge of the reintegration program.
Reintegration, as in reintegrating people.
As in, it was a psychological operations mission to basically reintegrate all of the detainees within our...
As detainees, in other words, when you say detainees, we are referring to people.
Prisoners, individuals.
Very
yes.
good. Okay, so these are still human beings. Okay, very good. So your mission was to get them integrated back into society, or what was the mission?
Back into the new Iraqi society under the democratic rule of the new president Hamid Karzai.
Okay, Hamid Karzai in Afghanistan.
I forget his name, not Hamid Karzai, whoever the president was going to be in Iraq.
Well, I'm not sure if...
I forget his name.
All right. Because...
But actually, at the time...
In other words, for the president, basically. For the prime minister of Iraq at the time, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, we'll be able to locate the man's name because they've had so many since then, but... Getting back to what your duty was as a warrant officer, your unit were responsible. And about how many personnel did you have under your command as a warrant officer?
I had about 50.
Okay. So
50 altogether.
50 military personnel specifically worked under...
50 military personnel and maybe 10 civilians.
Okay, so you're talking a 60 people total.
Yeah, it was like a company size element.
All armed.
All of them are armed. Yes.
All of them, including the civilians, of course.
Yes.
Okay, and your responsibility was to get people back into the newly elected Democratic Society of Iraq in 2000.
Okay, that was the overall mission. Yes, but within our mission, the main mission was to gather intelligence. We worked as a human intelligence unit under the shield of psychological operations.
So, really, at this point, as warrant officer, you're given a psychological assignment to carry out.
Yeah, it was under PSYOPs. The mission was under reintegration. Reintegration program is under information operations. Information operations is under human intelligence, and human intelligence is all under psychological operations.
Okay. At what point did you get assigned the Abu Ghraib prison?
The unit was assigned to the prison as initially, but okay. So within the prison, once a unit takes over, our battalion took over the prison, but it was like 100 to 200 different jobs that we had to accomplish, and that mission came up like the second or third, about the third week that we got there.
Okay.
So I was there for about 3 weeks before I took over. I was assigned that mission.
Okay, as a warrant officer.
Right.
And how long would you be there before you were sent home, or before your unit or your battalion was relieved of being there in Iraq completely? How long did you spend?
We were in Iraq for about 18 months.
18 months, okay. That's a little bit more of a stretch than the 15 months in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And so what actually took place in the prison and beyond the prison? So this is kind of like, when you got to the prison, you're still a warrant officer.
But when I got to the prison, I was a staff sergeant, and the primary mission for our whole battalion and the brigade itself was to take over the Abu Ghraib prison. So within that came the whole political aspect, everything that involved, taking care of these 30,000 detainees and putting them back into society. So with that being said, the first job that I had was just working as the one of the compound supervisors until about that was my first job, and then after about three weeks, I was assigned to the PSYOPs mission, and that was mostly because my familiarity with Arabic and because I was Muslim.
So you had a familiarity with Arabic, and the fact that you were Muslim gave the impression that you would be able to carry out this reintegration program by the military in Abu Ghraib.
Yeah.
All right. So what transpired as you were going through, the detainees, and with this, by now it's 15 months left. So did you actually spend the 15 remaining months at the Abu? Okay. So for 15 months you're at Abu Ghraib. And your familiarity with Arabic, if we just go back, we will see that the trip to Africa, the 1983 to 1990 you were in Africa at Al Hanafiya, among other schools in Tuba, as well as somewhat in Bakke, and as well as maybe Dakar somehow. And from that, you were able to utilize those compounds and facilitate a smooth transition. So what would take place? How many did you manage, or your unit manage to reintegrate into the Iraqi Democratic Society?
Well, we had two missions. The first mission was to do the reintegration of the Iraqis, and then the second mission was and that had so many steps. Like they had to go to classes. If they were illiterate, they had to go to school. So many different steps that this program had. I mean, it was they were offered TVs, reading materials, visitation, and all this was like incentive to do the right things to be released upon a time or whatever. But we also had a situation within the compounds there were juveniles in the compound, so we had to use these Iraqi bilingual bicultural advisors and make an inquiries throughout the compounds and find out which ones were under the age of 18, so that they can be sent into their own particular compound and do their own reintegration with the library and with school and with their parents and stuff like that. So altogether, I'd say from beginning to end, the program released about 12,000 detainees back into society.
Okay.
About 12, maybe 13.
During the time that you're there, this is what you've managed to do. You've managed to be at the social re-infrastructure of a society, meaning the Iraqi society. And you've stayed the course the entire 18 months in this. Considering the fact that you were actually in this, and I'm sure there are a lot more to say about Abu Ghraib because it made big news as to what really was going on in Abu Ghraib. So is there any truth to dogs being sipped on people, for example? So there was really that. Okay, Abu Ghraib.
So let me tell you. So the first time the whole Abu Ghraib abuse scandal came out in 2004, 2005, or 2002, 2003, I believe, when it came out. That stuff, I saw stuff going on in Afghanistan that was worse than Abu Ghraib. So when that stuff came out, it wasn't a surprise to me because I saw it already. Maybe it was a surprise to the society here, but I saw worse in Afghanistan.
Okay.
I saw worse in Afghanistan.
Let me ask you something. Let me just. I mean, again, Afghanistan, for now. For the sake of, you were there to find, whoever was responsible for the Twin Towers, okay? Iraq, you were supposed to be finding weapons of mass destruction. But here you are.
Hold on, we were supposed to be finding weapons of mass destruction, and that was the overall mission, but within that mission you have other missions, which is, provide security for the president or the prime minister, other stuff.
That may well be, but nevertheless, the fact is you were there reintegrating prisoners into society at the end of the day.
Yeah,
that's number one. Yes. Number two is just a very important, assertion that there was never any conversation between, you soldiers, like, we're supposed to be finding weapons of mass destruction. Like, what the hell are we doing here instead? Because, I mean, it's quite different to change people's culture.
Right.
So was there ever any discussion, within your unit, like, why the hell are we even, we already caught, whoever we thought had weapons of mass destruction.
So at some point, the mission changed because the Pentagon knew that they couldn't find any weapons of mass destruction. So it went from finding weapons of mass destruction to helping the Iraqi rebuild, and our mission changed from finding weapons of mass destruction to helping the Iraqi police, because at that time you have to remember there